Welcome to Island Living Today, a monthly speaker series where local experts share valuable insights to enhance your home ownership experience on Vancouver Island. This series is brought to you by top realtors on Vancouver Island. Denise Hodgins, who specializes in the finest properties in the Mid-Island region, delivering exceptional service along the way. Thank you for joining Island Living Today and being a part of our community.
Welcome and hi to all of you who don't know me. I'm Denise Hodgins, an outdoor enthusiast and a foodie, as well as a realtor, and I specialize in luxury properties on beautiful Vancouver Island. Nanoose Bay is where I call home, and I feel grateful to live in such a beautiful place. Well, today I'm super excited to have Crystal Lee from Relocal on my show. And today, Crystal is going to be talking about moving. As we all know, it can be super exciting, but it also comes with its fair share of stress. In this episode of Island Living, um, relocation coach Crystal is going to unpack the key factors that make moving overwhelming. And she's going to share those expert tips to help you navigate the process more easily. From tackling to-do list to settling into a new community and to learn practical strategies to manage the emotional and logistical challenges of moving, this conversation is going to help you find calm and confidence for your next relocation, whether it's across town or to a new city. That is a tough bill, Crystal. Um,
Hi.
um, Many of you may not know Crystal, but for those of you who don't, I've had the pleasure of knowing and working with her for a number of years. And now, not only is she an amazing human, she is also a relocation and career coach. Crystal is the founder of Relocal and the host of the After Work Hangout podcast. So, it's a great podcast to listen to if you're wanting to know a little bit more about relocation. She's been helping people since 2013, and she's helped them find their dream jobs, settle into new communities, and successfully navigate major life transitions. Well, Crystal, you have a long list of accolades here. Not only have you been to UCLA and you have a Master of Public Health degree and also a Bachelor of Science degree from UBC. It's very impressive. And you live in Nanaimo. You're my neighbor. And one other thing you should know about Crystal is she regularly organizes a lot of community gatherings. She's very active in the community and she leads a laughter yoga. I've been trying to get to this class for a while and my schedule just hasn't permitted it. But one of these days, I'm going to go and sit with Crystal and her people and we're just going to laugh. And I think it's going to feel great. In her spare time, she enjoys gardening and exploring new neighborhoods. And she also has a cute little rescue pup. Well,
Yes, that's
Crystal,
right.
wow, that is a lot. You are a busy lady.
Well, thank you, Denise, for including me and inviting me here. We'll definitely make laughter yoga happen soon.
Yes, I'm
But I'm
looking
just,
forward to that.
yeah, really excited to be here to chat about moving. At one point, I actually moved 11 times in 10 years, both across country or just across town, but it's always stressful no matter how many times you've done it before.
Yeah, I don't think you ever really become an expert at it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So why don't we start with your relocation? Can you describe what you do as a relocation coach? Some people probably haven't heard that there is such a thing.
Absolutely. So, at the heart of it, I am a coach. So, it probably makes sense to start there. So, as a coach, I support folks in navigating change to get really clear about what they want. And with that, creating a path forward so that they can achieve their goals. We do this through deep conversations about things that are important to them, but we also navigate the ups and downs of as you start taking action, things will sometimes go your way, sometimes things won't go your way. And how do you navigate that experience? And I also provide that accountability to help folks stay motivated towards their goals. When we look at relocation in particular, there's before, during, and after a move. So if you think about before a move, you might be wondering, where should I move to? Like I feel a calling to move, but I'm still open. I'm not sure. How do I even decide? okay, what does that mean for my job? A big part of my work actually is supporting folks through navigating that career change that might need to happen in order to facilitate a move. During a move, it can be very stressful because there's so many things to do. That to do list is just huge. So,
Mhm.
again, like how to continue taking those steps forward. And one part that many folks don't think about, but is just as important, is after a move. How do you start building that sense of community and belonging so that you really feel at home? Because moving often means, being pulled away from the family and friends you know. And how do you rebuild from there so you can live that really fulfilling life? So there's a lot going on.
There is, exactly. Yeah, it isn't just packing up boxes and hiring a moving company. It seems very simple when you look at it in a high level, but there is a lot to moving, like a lot.
Absolutely.
And I don't think there's anyone in this world who hasn't moved at least once, right? And
Mhm.
11 times in 10 years, that's daunting. That is very
Yeah.
daunting. Yeah,
Yeah. Even across town, it's still something. You're
exactly.
disrupting your routine.
You are. Yeah, your whole life is disrupted. I know I've helped, hundreds of people buy and sell homes, and I wouldn't say I coach them, but I talk to them about, getting ready for the move. Let's pre-pack. Let's pack up the stuff you don't need, just to try and make it a little bit easier. But the consensus is that moving is stressful. No matter how prepared you are, it's stressful. So why don't you tell us what's really going on? Like, why is it so stressful?
For sure. And to start, I want to say stress itself isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's a response that we've developed as human beings to kind of signal to us when maybe there are things that you need, and that will prompt us to get those things for ourselves. So, in the context again of moving, it's change. We are moving from a place of comfort and familiarity and routine, and we're now stretching into the zone of change. But what we want to be careful of is not to overstretch ourselves into a panic zone. So, from comfort to stretch to panic, like let's stay in that stretch zone where a lot of growth, in fact, actually happens. But to avoid that kind of panic zone, where we can maybe go into our fight, flight, or freeze response, we're just paralyzed. That's what we don't want.
Right.
Um, and if we think about moving, there's so many reasons for moving, right? Maybe we can even work together and talk through some of these. I'm just imagining if we're moving into buying our first home, a first time home buyer, that might mean maybe you're going to disrupt your finances a bit. Going from a renter to a homeowner, that's a lot of unknowns and new experiences. Maybe you're even, moving in with a partner. Relationships wise, it's also a big change adjusting to that. Maybe even starting a family and added responsibilities, lots of changes there. And in some of those cases, it's within your control, like it's something that you choose. But moving can also, in some cases, be something outside your control. Maybe you're not choosing. Maybe your job is relocating you, or sometimes maybe relationships are ending or changing, and that's also a huge life disruption, and navigating all of those differences and life. Denise, like on your front, what type of experiences do you see? Like maybe folks, maybe health is changing and they need to
Yeah.
make an adjustment in their home
E
environment.
exactly. So, yeah, well, on the island, we have quite a bit of elderly, we have an elderly population, and so, it comes to a point where it just doesn't make sense to be in your home anymore. So now you're being faced with either downsizing to something that's more manageable for you to live in, or you're going to that next step where there's a little more care for you.
Yeah.
And, leaving what you've known for a very long time creates a lot of stress, and I see it in people all the
Hmm.
time.
For
It
sure.
just disrupts their life at a point in time where they don't handle stress that well,
Yeah.
Things have been going along very calm, the days of the kids disrupting your life on a daily basis are gone, and so life has been pretty status quo and easy, and then all of a sudden you have to move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes maybe you're helping your parents move too, and there's challenging
Exactly.
conversations around that. I know from my side, I have elderly parents, so we're starting to try and have some of those conversations as well.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
Mhm,
it's a hard, hard conversation to have on both sides. I mean, it's for the kids and for the parents. I mean, it's
mhm.
equally difficult. So, there's just so much stress in all these different situations. And I mean, every now and then there's a happy move, but a lot of times you're right. People are forced to move because of one thing or another. Maybe they can no longer afford their home. And so, what are some of your suggestions to help manage the stress before a move?
Yeah, for sure. If, it is a situation where you have the luxury of time, like it is a choice you're looking forward to, on the horizon, you need to decide, and you have that luxury of time, then you can start taking small actions to plan towards it, and create that runway. So, you might be looking at finances that are involved, talking to someone who can assess your situation, what your options may be. If it's about, needing to change your career kind of situation, you might start like networking to look for new opportunities that will fit and align with that move. Um, and I'll share an example. Even for me, I moved from the mainland, so from the Vancouver area to Nanaimo about 3.5 years ago. But my seed of interest for moving to the island probably started even 6 years prior to that actual
Mhm.
move. That was when I started noticing there was a desire in me that was curious about what it would be like to live on the island. So I would make little trips out here, maybe ask my friends, like, who do you know who lives on the island? Maybe I can chat with them to hear about their experience. And through those chats, I kind of learn about how they made it happen, where they work. Are they working for themselves remotely? Did they find a local job? Right? Just having those conversations. It's all about data collection to me, because when you have a lot of unknown, you're feeling that anxiety. It's just a lot of like swirling thoughts, like I don't know this, I don't know that. But then when you actually start taking action to collect data, it's like, okay, I can answer this question and now I can decide my next step. Or sometimes you go down routes where you're like, you know what, that's not going to work. A no is a great answer sometimes because
Yes.
it redirects your attention to
We're
something
sometimes
else.
afraid to say no, but yes, it needs to
Hmm.
be a part of our vocabulary. Like we need to know when to say no.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
I even love, for example, your island living today talks. You're introducing folks to different professionals that people can lean on to and reach out to.
Hmm.
And that itself is a part of that knowledge exchange and like arming yourself with the information to make decisions. But
Yeah.
again, that's about when you have the luxury of time.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
I'm a big list maker. So when I find myself getting stressed and overwhelmed, I sit down and make lists because then at least my brain stops running through my list. It's on a piece
Yes.
of paper. I have it written down. I'm not going to forget it. And now I feel it's manageable. So we all have different ways of dealing with that. But yes, again, the luxury of time. You don't always have the luxury of time. Yeah. So
Hmm.
if you are moving quickly, what's the advice for those people? I mean, they don't have the time to spend 6 years investigating the island, right?
Yes, that's right.
Mhm.
So when there is that crunch time, I think a predominant feeling is just that overwhelm, right? Maybe worry. And I would say if you can, back to you, like writing things down, if you can write down first and foremost, like, why are you moving? And if you're able to give yourself a answer, such as like, you know, the move is because I want to live closer to the mountains so that I can really enjoy the activities and lifestyles that I want. And it's in the mountains. Or it's like I am looking to move to a space that will allow that that my family to live the life that we want, to have access to the services we want and the space that we want, and so forth. If you can connect with a why, even in the most stressful moments, you can at least pull that out and remind yourself there's a reason behind why I'm going through all this stress,
I think a
right?
why is important for everything in our life. Like,
Hmm.
and that makes so much sense, like having your why, and that'll help keep you grounded. But yes, in everything that I do, I try and think of the why. Like,
Absolutely.
yeah,
It's that
and
grounding force.
yeah, and
Hmm.
then, it's either, when you figure out your why, it's either a yes or a no, going back to, is it the right choice, right? Sometimes we don't have a
Absolutely.
choice, but yeah. So,
Maybe
when
I can
someone is
even add on to something that you
sure,
just pointed out.
yeah,
Um, Again, back to you said if we have the choice. So, something, whether you have a choice or not, another question that you can ask is how do you want to be through this experience? Because I think a lot of times we're very busy folks nowadays, and you're just rushing from one to do to the next to do. And it's all about the actions you take and that productivity. But something that we might not realize is how we show up actually makes a difference. You can be packing, but you can be packing in a way that feels like frustrated, kind of resentful, right? But you can also be packing and being calm and excited. It's the same action and same motion of packing, but how you show up can really make a difference.
I
And
find
so,
packing very cathartic. I might
oh,
be
great.
weird, but I find it very cathartic because it gives me the opportunity to go through and, do I need this? Don't I need this? And yeah, there's something about it that it doesn't bother me to pack. Some people it does.
That's so great to hear. So it sounds like you found that choice again. Um,
Hmm.
Even if the bigger picture, you don't have very much choice, you can bring in these micro choices. I'm going to
Yeah.
choose to pack and use the situation to decide what I want to keep and curate my life and my belongings. So,
Yeah. And
exactly that.
trim it down, like we all have way too much stuff, way too much stuff. We're such consumers. So it's a great opportunity to cull all the stuff that you've accumulated over time. So someone is feeling stressed and overwhelmed. Um now what can they do? Like just sit down and have a cup of tea, or what do they do?
Mm. Yeah. Okay. So I think something I'll bring up from project management actually is the project management triangle, where this concept of you can either have things fast, cheap, or high quality. And you can only pick two out of the three. You can't
Right.
actually have all three. So I bring this up because it helps us realize um, there are sometimes constraints and you do have to choose. So it's okay if you want to move quickly and you want to be cheap, just know that the quality might not be up to the par that you would ideally want. And you just need to let that go. Or if you want something to be fast and you want it to be the quality that is just like perfect and up to your standards, it might cost a bit more. And you know what? It's just again letting that go and knowing that you'll have to budget for it. Um,
Right.
so sometimes I find some of these frameworks can just help organize our mind to decide which parts we can make decisions and which parts we will just need to let go and be a little looser with.
Yeah,
Um,
letting go is huge. Yeah.
yeah. And with stress and overwhelm, a lot of these are difficult emotions that we are experiencing during a move. Like you said, maybe um, you've lived in a place for many decades and now you have to say goodbye. It's natural to feel some sadness and other emotions that may be there. So I think just acknowledging that and making space for it. Something that I've learned from a friend who specializes in ceremonies and rituals is the concept of house cooling. So a lot of us know housewarming, where we move into a place, we invite our friends and family over and we celebrate. But the concept of house cooling is that you can also have a ritual or ceremony to say goodbye to a place that
Mm.
has been really special to you. And you get to decide what you want that ritual to be. So let's say maybe it is inviting some family and friends over. Maybe you walk through the home and take some photos and create an album that's special and meaningful to you. Maybe it's collecting some soil from the backyard or some seeds from the garden that you're going to plant in your new place, right? So, this is where you get to be really creative and personalize this experience to really acknowledge what is present for you, um, and to honor that journey, that move.
That's a lovely idea. I really like that idea. It just puts closure on everything. So,
Mhm.
I can see the using that, quite honestly. Like, that's something I'm gonna tell people who are having a hard time
Please,
moving.
yes.
Yeah, so do you have any practical strategies for people to help them reduce the stress during a move?
Yes,
'Cause
for sure.
during the move, it's next level.
It is, it really
Yeah.
is. So, you already mentioned writing things down. Our brains can only handle so much, especially when we're under stress. It actually hangs on to even less. So use the pen and paper. Um, I call it brain dumping. You
Yeah.
might even want a dedicated physical notebook that you know that is the place I go for anything related to my move. I also want to point your attention to really great resources online. If you just head to Google and you type moving checklists, there are
Oh,
really great checklists that are already done for you. Um, examples are by like BC Hydro and Canada Post. They actually have really great checklists. So Google moving checklists. Maybe Denise, you can even link to some of these on your website when we
that's a
post
great
this.
idea. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I absolutely will.
Another thing is time. um, if you are still, running errands, taking kids to like different practices, and you still have work and, volunteering, all these things that you might have, block dedicated time on your calendar to handle moving related activities. And you actually have to honor those time blocks. And I've already shared one strategy as well is to talk to others to collect information. But there's another layer that you can include here. When you talk to folks, you can ask or tell them how you want them to support you. Maybe it's saying something like, I've blocked off time on this day that I'm going to be doing some packing. I need you to help do this for me, walk my dog for me, right?
Yeah.
Like, so just invite folks in to support you.
Well, people do not read minds. I keep
Yes.
thinking that they do. We expect sometimes people to do things that for us would be a logical thing, and for them isn't necessarily logical, or they don't even understand you need the help. So, yes,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
another thing, you have to ask for help to get the help. Don't
Hmm.
assume that people will just come to your rescue.
And also turning that towards yourself to take care of yourself. So that's all about self care, starting with the basics. Are you eating well? Are you sleeping well? Are you getting out for fresh air? I've seen a message online about how we're just like houseplants. We need to have sunlight. We need to have nourishment, food, like fresh air. So treat ourselves like houseplants. Take care of ourselves just as you would take care of a houseplant.
That's awesome. So,
Mhm.
it's the day of the move now, and, we all know what that's like. And so, what are your tips for people the day of?
Okay, yes. So it's a busy day. It's going to be a long day. So, practical tips, make sure your phone is charged. Bring a charger, right? um, and know that once the move starts, you might not be able to access some of the boxes for a while. So if there are things that you need on a daily basis, make sure you pack it separately and you travel with it in your own
Mhm.
car, for example. Have some extra cash on you. You might just have expenses. You need to pick something up, tip the movers, whatever it may be. Make sure there's gas in your car. And if you have pets or children, make sure that there's a plan for caring for them. So it's kind of looking at micro actions that you need to take and handling them one by one.
Right. Yeah. No, I've often heard that you should have a bag packed
Mhm.
for moving. And in it is a few days of clothes, any medications that you have, all the things that you need. And then you should also Like you said, have a box of stuff just for you. Don't forget, you might move into a place that has no toilet paper.
Yep.
The people there might have been really attached to the toilet paper that they bought, and they take it. So you get there and, you've been in the car for a long time, now you have to pee, and there is no toilet paper.
Yeah.
So,
Treat it
yeah.
almost like camping for the
Yes.
first little while. So pack
Ex
like you are going camping.
yes, or to a hotel, right? Like,
Yeah.
or no, camping because hotels have toilet paper, or most of them, right? Okay, so now that's all done, and we all think, "Oh, well, thank God that's done. We've survived the day of the move. We're in our house. Now it's easy peasy," but we all know that that is not the truth. There's
Mhm,
even more stress after because, we can't find our stuff and we're trying to find homes for stuff. So give us some tips on how to settle
mhm.
in.
Absolutely. So just after the move, like make sure you give yourself some rest time, rest and recharge time. You probably won't make it back to work immediately the next day. Like, um, settling in is a process. It will take some time, and that there's different levels of settling in. Kind of level one is just trying to get back to some routines. I like to say, like, pick one thing that's important and meaningful for you and start there. So for me, for example, I have a morning cup of tea every morning. So I make sure, again, back to that go bag or whatever you want to call it, travel bag, I've got my mug with some tea that I can start that routine immediately. So
Get
find
some
your one thing, like
sense of
toothpaste
normalcy.
and
Yeah,
exactly,
yeah,
exactly. And then you start building out from that. Um, Again, like that's level 1. Level 2, it's like the practical side of changing your address. Now you're living in a new place, you have to let people know. They're actually, again, back to going to the internet and finding checklists. There are some really great checklists we can link to as well, telling you how to navigate that process of changing your address. I know the government of BC has a address change tool. Canada Post also has a mail forwarding tool. um, and another tip is you can just comb through past bills, like credit card bills, and see if there are any subscriptions that are, um, automatically tied to your credit card or any type of address.
yeah.
Yeah, and then there's the whole community side, which is kind of level 3, long term community building and settling in. And this is probably one of my favorite topics, which is why I do so much community work, Denise, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
Like, how do you start getting to know your neighbors? I don't know if it's old fashioned now to bake something and bring to your neighbors, but I actually did that. I moved around just before the holidays, like Christmas holidays. So I dropped off some treats, said hello to my neighbors. They returned the favors, right? Like, if you don't want to be old fashioned that way, just like get out. I find, especially on the island, just read the posters that you
Mhm.
walk past, whether it's in a community center or on a like just a electrical pole. There are really cool local, like hyper local to you events and activities you can engage in and start going out and meeting folks. Libraries are really great resources. I love libraries. They host events. Um,
Mhm.
the librarians are so knowledgeable. If there's anything you're interested in, I bet they could point you in the right direction. Um, and online community groups. Nowadays, if you head to Facebook, you could probably look up some geographically based neighborhood groups. You know, there might be buy nothing groups where you can exchange items. Maybe there are other ones that's more activities based. So there's so many ways now, both just walking down the street looking at posters to leveraging online communities to find folks with similar interests and values. And there's been a study in psychology where people like you the more they see you. It's just a matter of the number of
Yeah.
times they see you. So it will take a bit of effort in the beginning to show your face and say hello, but that's how those connections start. So
Yeah.
keep at it.
Well, I've hosted open houses for myself when I've moved into a new new area, you invite all the neighbors
Mhm.
because they all wanna meet you, and they wanna see what you have in your house and what you've done with the house.
Yes.
Everybody's snoopy by nature, and it's a great way to meet your neighbors. I've also hosted, where we live now, we have a park not far from us, at the ocean, and so I've hosted events there where it's a neighborhood potluck just to get to know everybody. So it's just really simple things, just getting yourself out there, and it helps you build that sense of home and the
Mhm.
sense of belonging long term. Um, did you have anything more you wanted to add to adding?
Yeah. So I think this is back to maybe reconnecting with your why. This is a good time to check in with it
Mhm.
and determine what actions and activities you want to engage in that will support that original why
Yeah, and
behind
then
your
look for the
move.
clubs. Yeah.
Exactly. For me,
Yes.
gardening was a big one. Living in the city, I could do balcony gardening, but I couldn't do much more. So, like, I've been converting my front lawn into veggie gardens, and in the process, just working out in the front. Like, neighbors come by, we chat. Like, it's just been really fun that way to connect.
Mhm.
But I will say, like, making friends or building those connections is a bit like dating, right? Like,
It
not
is.
every first date will make it to the second date, and that's okay. You're experimenting and again choosing how you show up. It's like you can show up with an attitude of just openness and curiosity, right? It's okay if something might fizzle, but over time you just keep getting closer and closer to creating that life around your why.
Exactly. So you've given us a lot of great information. I know I've learned a lot, and I'd like to thank you for sharing your knowledge with us.
Of course, thank you.
So if there was only one thing you want people to remember from everything that the advice you've given, what would that one thing be? Because, people get a sense of overwhelm even just listening to these type of things, and information comes and goes.
Yeah, okay. Great question. So I think if you are feeling whatever feeling in fact it is, just know that it's okay. It's a part of you sending you a message. So just honoring that instead of pushing it away. I do think that sometimes if we spend too much time trying to push something away, not only is it not very effective, that energy could have been spent on something else. So just honor it, like whatever is here. And then choosing one small thing you can start with that feels really manageable for you. And it looks different for different people, right? Like someone who has less capacity because they have too much going on, maybe that one thing is just simply pulling out a notebook. That will be where you write down your questions. But for someone else who maybe has a bit more capacity, maybe they fill up 2 pages of that notebook with questions and to dos. So again, it's not about comparing. It's just like what can you start with, and that will create the momentum and that confidence to continue moving forward.
That's awesome. Thank you, Crystal.
Mhm.
Well, this has been wonderful. If you want Crystal's help, she is an amazing person to work with. You've just seen the tip of the iceberg. She's extremely organized and a lovely human. So her contact information will be included with this recording, and feel free to reach out to her. She is a wealth of information, and she will support you every step of the way and make your move. If you're feeling overwhelmed, she can help make your move much more manageable and break it down into steps that you can deal with. Thank you
Mhm.
again for stopping by, Crystal. I really appreciate your time,
No,
and
thank
I
you.
look forward to working with you in the future.
For sure. Take care,
Okay.
everyone.
Okay. Bye, Crystal.
Bye bye.